All right, you guys seeing my screen here?
I am.
Okay, great, thanks. I realized today as I was coming up with my bit.ly link, which is Hype Wolfie, that your mascot is named Wolfie. Is that true?
Yep.
Okay, well, my daughter has a stuffed animal wolf. That's her favorite stuffed animal, and his name is also Wolfie. I don't think he's official CSU Pueblo merchandise, but maybe there's some relationship there. Cool, great to see such a diverse disciplinary group here: biology, math and physics, biology, chemistry, anthropology, world languages, music, psychology, English, social work, history, excellent, art history. I'm Jeremy Dean. I'm the Director of Education at Hypothesis Business Nursing. It just keeps getting better. Great interdisciplinary group. I think it's amazing when there can be a cohort like that at an institution where folks are coming from different disciplines. I think if we can, Jonathan and Denise and Aaron, keep this as a conversation that's ongoing throughout folks' implementation of Hypothesis, I think folks will really learn from each other quite a bit. But I'll kick it off today by running briefly through a deck for you all. You can get this deck yourself at Hype Wolfie at bit.ly. Give you a little background on Hypothesis and collaborative annotation as a pedagogical tool. Talk about some strategies for implementation, and also demo in Blackboard. I forget, Aaron, if I have a demo queued up in my own Blackboard. But if you guys have, I forget if Denise, if you guys have had a chance to set up a Blackboard instance there for folks to play in, we can also use that. And I'll start from there. My background is in English. I'm an English professor by training. I have a PhD from UT Austin. So I come from academia and have found myself in this crazy ed tech world, working on collaborative annotation for nearly 10 years now. I expect many of you are used to teaching face-to-face, used to going onto a campus and going into a classroom. Maybe if it's a nice day, you stay outside somewhere. I haven't been to Pueblo campus. But yeah, you're used to the classroom as the space in which you perform your calling. And for many of you, I imagine it's new and very difficult over this past spring to move your teaching, your practice online. And to deliver content and work with students remotely. I want to just give you a little bit of heart in that for many years I've been working both inside the classroom and outside on this technology of collaborative annotation. I really do believe it is a authentic space for teaching and learning. And this quote from the Chronicle of Higher Education several years ago about social reading and collaborative annotation tools like Hypothesis, I think captures that. Online, a book could be an academic article, could be a poem, any document. Online, a book can be a gathering place, a shared space where readers record their reactions and conversations. Annotation is not a new technology. I used to hand out this poem every semester when I taught college composition and English. I actually also taught high school English. I would hand this out at the beginning of the year. I'd hand out the syllabus, I'd hand out this poem, and I would read it aloud to students. To inspire them to write in the margins of their books and their readings. We've all seized the white perimeter as our own and reached for a pen, if only to show we did not just laze in an armchair turning pages. We pressed a thought into the wayside, planted an impression along the verge. I handed this out because I believed that from my own experience as a student and as a scholar that annotation had been critical to my success, and I believed that it would be critical to the success of my students throughout my course if they were taking notes in the margins of their books, writing on handouts, etc. And of course, there's nothing particularly new about that provocation, right? Students and scholars have been annotating in books since probably before the invention of the book. But it's true that when we start to deliver more readings online and students are reading PDFs and other content online, that they lose this margin to practice this critical literacy skill. And that's something that's part of what Hypothesis hopes to revive, is bringing back the margin in digital text. But a lot more can happen because of the sort of digital networked environment in which annotation can now take place. So this is our vision of annotation at Hypothesis. Any website, article, ebook, document, or piece of multimedia can have multiple layers of annotation. There can be that traditional layer of private marginalia, my notes. There can also be a public layer. This is actually disabled in the in the Blackboard integration. But we're not just an ed tech tool. You can get a browser extension. I think Jonathan has been using Hypothesis outside of Blackboard for years now, both in teaching, but also in conversing with colleagues and collaborators across the world through annotation. So there can be this public layer. I think most importantly for the classroom application, though, it's these private group layers, private reading and annotating groups that are most powerful for students and teachers. You can have a private group of your colleagues, which hopefully we'll get to see and experience today as part of the Blackboard implementation at CSU Pueblo. And of course, you can also have private groups for all your courses, all your sections in a particular semester, or your courses semester by semester. Private reading and annotating groups on top of course materials. I'll just want to highlight 3 top-level takeaways that relate to Hypothesis for teaching and learning. The first is still in that nothing new category, that Hypothesis makes reading active. Sure, active learning is nothing new to you guys. You don't just want your students to be passive recipients of your knowledge. You want them to be making knowledge themselves and engaging and collaborating. And annotation is one of the basic ways to achieve a kind of active learning practice in the classroom, specifically around reading. But I do like to point out on this slide that the ways that students can be active in their learning and in their reading through annotation are quite new with Hypothesis and digital annotation. For example, in this case, you can use multimedia elements in your annotations, right? This Dwight Schrute meme is a student annotating at Edna St. Vincent Millay. And this assignment was created by Lawrence Hanley, who had students annotating throughout a sort of anthology of American literature for a course. And I think then he kind of got bored, and sometimes when we're bored, we get innovative. He's like, I'm tired of just reading what students have to say about the text. Let me challenge them and say, okay, with this poem, just annotate with an image. And it ended up being a really interesting experiment. Some students made up memes. Some students grabbed images from modern, web culture. Others grabbed classic images of art to connect to the poem. So there was a lot to talk about in terms of visual interpretation and visual thinking. And I just want to point out here that you can use these multimedia elements, or encourage your students to, as different ways of thinking, different ways of comprehending, different ways of engaging and being critical around the reading for your course. In a biology course, I know there's some biologists here. My wife's a biologist. When she used this tool in the classroom at UT Austin, she's an expert on frog song, frog mating calls and such. And she had students reading an article about some Panamanian frog and its mating call. And, it's a dry scientific article with not a lot of images. So students added, images of the frog and even videos of the frog, in the jungle. And I believe there was even a video remix of the frog song to Panamanian discotheque music, right? Which sometimes it can be silly, but all of this is helping to bring alive the text. And I think it's okay if there's some informal kind of joking in some annotation. She also, as part of her annotation practice, would have students, define a difficult word in the text and ask a question about the text. So it wasn't just Panamanian disco music and frog song. Lots of different ways to be active with Hypothesis annotation. And one of the powerful aspects of that is for different learning, different types of learners, right? I've learned when I've taught with collaborative annotation that there's going to be the traditional students that are always raising their hand and talking in class. And that often does translate to being high volume annotators. But I do believe you will see students that might not be as active in an in-class situation for one reason or another, find the opportunity, perhaps because of the asynchronous time given to creating annotations, but also because maybe they're a particularly visual thinker. I'm blabbing on this slide, but I have a great story about a student who was failing my class when we were reading Toni Morrison's Bluest Eye, and they then did all this archival work to find early 20th century advertisements for skin whitening and hair straightening products targeted at African Americans in the early 20th century, which is the historical context for that novel that then she gathered and was able to bring into the margins of the book for all of us, myself included, for it to hit home what Morrison was doing. And this was something, she was failing reading quizzes. This was a high school class. She was failing reading quizzes. She wasn't getting good grades on papers. And all of a sudden, she found this way to contribute and for me to honor her contributions and start off at the beginning of class like, Shania, you found all this crazy imagery and advertisements. Like, tell us about your research process there and how you tied that into the book. And this student was able to sort of find her voice in that way. Hypothesis makes reading visible. I think this is a new way of thinking about annotating and reading. When I handed out that Billy Collins poem, it was completely aspirational, right? I graded students weeks later on a paper, right? I didn't show them how to highlight intelligently or what types of strategies to use in their annotations, or how to read texts per se. I graded their reading abilities on their writing, on the final product of that long process of engaging, comprehending, analyzing, formulating argument that goes into a traditional humanities class. I graded the final product, and this is a way to be present a lot earlier than on that summative assignment, and to guide students through the various micro processes of encountering, processing, and developing ideas around course material. Of course, it can also make student reading visible in the sense that I'm sure you've had the experience of wondering if the students have done the reading, right? As you look out over an audience and the conversation is not going so wonderfully. This is a way to enforce reading compliance by saying create 3 annotations. They've been there to some degree and engaged with the text on some level. And that will be fodder for class and conversation, whether it's on Zoom or face-to-face. But more importantly than whether they've done it or not, you can see where they were confused and address that in your class meetings, or you can see where they were inspired and jump off your class conversation at a higher level of engagement than you might traditionally, because you have all this material to work with ahead of a class. And then finally, hypothesis makes reading social. The number one thing that students say semester after semester in their surveys is, I learned from my peers. That's the biggest benefit that they get from using hypothesis. And it's powerful to look at the data and see. I've been looking as we've been moving pilots to production lately at some of the course data, and seeing that the number of questions asked is always vastly outweighed by the number of answers given. And that's not just a teacher swooping in to answer a question. That's students answering each other's questions, helping each other through the text, better comprehending the text as a group, and building knowledge together as a community. So that social aspect is something I think is very powerful, especially to students. I know I wish I had had it in grad school when I was reading Derrida and completely lost and feeling pretty stupid. It would have been nice to know that maybe I wasn't just the only one, and we could help each other through that dense and difficult academic writing. Any questions to surface at this point, Erin? Or do you think we're pretty good?
No, I think the only question was resources for students, and Denise indicated that she's added a lot of those resources into the Blackboard.
Awesome.
Itself.
Yeah, you guys have great local resources in Denise and Jonathan. Denise is amazing and has been very supportive throughout our work with Hypothesis, and Jonathan has been using Hypothesis for years. So you've got great folks on the ground there. Very briefly, and I'll go into a demo. When you're annotating with Hypothesis, you select text to annotate. You can reply to existing annotations. I do want to put a pin in this right here. It's true that not every annotation assignment has to be discursive by nature. Don't have to employ replies. I was talking recently to a group of community college instructors who were using it for training paraphrase, students new to academic writing. Who are practicing paraphrase, how to restate something in your own words without plagiarizing. That's a skill to be practiced. Not a particularly interesting annotation to reply to, I would imagine, in terms of a long threaded conversation, but certainly a very powerful use of annotation to demonstrate and visualize a basic, an essential academic skill. But I do want to put a pin in the reply, because if you are, if your goal is discursive, you should know about the reply button. You should tell your students about the reply button. You should consider building replies into the activities and assignments that you use to guide them through an annotation. So in terms of resources for students, and as I think was said, Denise has grabbed some of these. So these are actually 3 resources totally. These are links within the deck if you want to 2 specific resources for yourself and for students. And you can I'm dropping the link for this deck in as well, just so people have these resources in lots of places. But annotation etiquette for students, that's things like, and they're not meant to be rules, but but don't select the entire page of text, right? That's not necessarily helpful. Maybe you can think of an assignment where that is helpful, but generally being discreet and thoughtful and deliberate about how much text you select so that your comment will be, restrained to the words there, is a valuable thing. So that's something that's covered in annotation etiquette. Illustrated Guide to Annotation Types is just the different ways you can annotate with hypothesis, a top level annotations, replies. And then there's this resource on adding images and videos and link if that's something that is of interest. We have an integration with Blackboard, and that I think it may be the way that most of you will access this. So we'll go ahead and demonstrate that. But basically students don't need to create accounts. You'll have a private group provision for your course through Blackboard. Basically you can add PDFs and web pages and they'll have hypothesis on them and everybody will be ready to go with the good work of annotating collaboratively. And there is an integration with the gradebook, which I'll go over. If you want to make your annotatable readings gradable as well, you can grade annotation sets. So there might be a wonderful, extensive conversation across a chapter of a novel, but you want to know, did Erin do the reading and did she do her 3 annotations? That allows you to zoom in on her contributions and just see Erin's 2 annotations and 1 reply, and you can directly send a grade to the gradebook at that point. And here are some specific Blackboard resources. Erin and Denise, were we going to demo in Blackboard, or do we have a course site that we were going to work with at CSU Pueblo? What was the plan?
We could log in. I'm logged into the course, or Jonathan could log in, and then you could take mouse control.
Oh, I forgot about that mouse control thing. Yeah, we could try that. That's a little unnerving. I did just want to show off really quickly because I did some homework for this, and then we'll let you take over in just a second, Denise. But I did create a little Colorado, Literature of Colorado section in my own Blackboard course. I just want to show this off. We won't do too much with it, but I got my Literature Colorado. I've got an Edward Dorn poem. I just want to quickly show what it looks like. So this is a Dorn poem that I added to my Blackboard course, and I can select text, highlight, and annotate. And this is hypothesis. But I think it will be better for us to look at this in the context of CSU Pueblo's Blackboard site. So I'm going to stop sharing. But great Edward Dorn poem, great Colorado poet. Highly recommend reading some Edward Dorn. Probably not safe for work, some of it.
Denise, if you're in already, why don't you be the one to send the Blackboard over to Jeremy?
No worries. Here you go, Jeremy. And
Remind me how I seize control.
I'm going to give you that permission right now. And then you should see a pop-up that says, I'm trying to give you mouse control.
Click to start. Whoa, this just doesn't, every time I do this, I feel like this isn't appropriate. All right.
We're going to go over to PD sessions, the menu link.
So now you're guiding me inside of your Blackboard course. This is like...
It's like Inception.
Yeah, right. It's like, what is real? What is real? Is this real life? Okay, so this is our course here. Cool. So thank you, Denise, for setting this up. Oh, very cool. All right, look at this. And it's little Black Lives Matter, July 4th kind of themed stuff here. This is great. So we've got some text here, and it's wonderful. Down here, we've got some how-tos. So this is something that folks have access to, right, Denise, or can?
Yes, everyone here is enrolled as a student. So when they log into their Blackboard, it's on their Blackboard course list.
Okay, well, I'm gonna then suggest that we make this a little hands-on, and since Erin could probably send by, Pony Express some hypothesis stickers over the past to you guys, I'm gonna say if we can, we're gonna do something hands-on here, which is go into Blackboard, get to this course if you can. Tell me if I'm wrong, Denise, and try to get into one of these readings. I'll open one up so you can see Lincoln's second inaugural. Beautiful. Here it is as a PDF. It opens, and here's hypothesis. So you should be able to get into this course and go to Lincoln's inaugural or the Emancipation Proclamation, and actually this third one is about annotation. It's a wonderful essay. Oh, this is
Ooh.
no, this is good because this will show us how to create it later.
Okay.
You can go into the second inaugural, or you can go into the Emancipation Proclamation. We hope with that one. Yeah, so these two Lincoln documents are annotatable. If you're in the course, you should be able to get to them like I am here. And I'll just do some demoing, but we'll send you stickers if you can create an annotation here. If you can get into this course and create an annotation on one of the Lincoln speeches. It can't be just test, okay? You're professors in higher education. You know, this is some great American writing. You should be able to say something intelligent. There's a lot of different types of ways to be intelligent, but just saying, is this working? Can you see this is not so much that.
Jeremy,
Yeah,
I couldn't for just a second since I'm the one who dropped the documents in there.
please.
I have, I think I left 3 comments on Lincoln's second inaugural, which you could reply to or answer the
Okay.
questions.
Okay.
And I deliberately left the Emancipation Proclamation blank. So, I mean, if I were all of you, I would try like one response to an existing comment, either by me or by somebody else, and then one new comment of your own, and then come back and join us here.
And then while we're doing that, Jeremy, I'm going to grab the mouse really quick to enroll Judy into the,
Yes. I just wanted to check one thing and make sure that we have those existing annotations because I didn't see them before. But yeah, go ahead and
Both files are the Emancipation Proclamation.
Yeah, I was
And
just
The
about
one
to
that
say,
says second inaugural. Just FYI.
yeah, that's what I was experiencing. But it looks like I didn't see the name, but go ahead and seize control of your own mouse.
you still have it too. I'm just going to borrow from one side.
Oh wow, so we can fight over it?
Yes. And it can be quite a battle.
Okay.
All right.
I'm hands off here. I'm gonna let you.
Let me- Okay, just one sec. Just gonna stop the share and do this enrollment really quick.
Yeah, so you should, again, we can operate here where you guys go to this course and open up the Emancipation Proclamation and create an annotation. It sounds like we have 2 versions of the same doc. So eventually maybe we can we can slip in the second inaugural. Yeah, go ahead and see if you can create an annotation. If you can create an annotation that's not test or can you see this, we'll get you a sticker when it's safe to send some stickers over there to CSU Pueblo and pick them up from Denise or Jonathan. I already saw an image annotation, and even though I've already seen it and somebody's been successful with that, I will say if you can send an image annotation, if you create an image or a video annotation or add a link, there might be some extra special swag for you, like a t-shirt or a coffee mug. But everybody gets a sticker if you can create an annotation. And I think it's great that Jonathan said, you know, do think about practicing replying. This is your chance to test out the tool, come up with questions, but also have the student experience what it's like to end up on one of Dr. Jonathan Reese's annotation assignments as part of his Lincoln, History of Lincoln course or whatever it might be. So I'll shut up for just a second and let folks work that out and take a look at the chat. Feel free to ask questions in the chat about what you're experiencing, but
Jeremy, here's a good troubleshooting thing. So if the incorrect document is linked, do I have to take down the entire assignment or can I edit the link?
I don't remember the workflow in Blackboard yet. I move between LMSs. I think I would delete one of those assignments and just create a new one. The good news is that nobody's annotations on the Emancipation Proclamation will be lost because they're just going to be, you know, since we already have that document, anybody
I'm
annotate.
just gonna actually add the correct one and I'll just put corrected in the title. And then that way.
Cool. And you could hide. I don't know if there's a way to hide one of them. But again, everybody's annotations on the Emancipation Proclamation will aggregate on either of those docs, but we will hide one. So nobody will lose their Emancipation Proclamation work. But part of the assignment is to go to the second inaugural as well. So let's see if you can.
Yes, one moment.
And it did look like somebody's not able to get to the course, but we can get to that later.
let's see. Peg, can you please send me your Blackboard login ID and I can add you very quickly. Okay.
So Jonathan, of course, as a historian, has brought us to some primary source documents from history. So that's a use case in history. In English, as I pointed out, could be your whatever content you're teaching, poems, sections of novels, short stories, essays, things of that nature. One dominant use case really across, or one popular use case across the disciplines is annotation of academic articles. So, there are folks from a wide range of disciplines above social work, psychology, music, chemistry, math. We all probably have students, at least at higher levels, nursing, business, read academic articles, PDFs of academic journal articles in the discipline. That's a use case across the disciplines to add those to your Blackboard course as hypothesis assignments and have students, read those together, help each other through them. But I do want to make sure we have time today after checking in on the, when we get it back up, Denise, to look at how folks have been annotating, and then moving on to talking about use cases. And I welcome those in the audience to share a little bit about, what their reading goals are with students, what kinds of things you read, and how you want students to read those materials. It varies across discipline, it varies across skill level, it varies even within a course from day 1 to day 30. So hypothesis is a very flexible tool and will allow you to zero in on certain skills or themes within a work and have students focus with hypothesis on those skills or themes, and then use the tool in a different way for a different assignment. Because I saw business up there and I was talking to a school with some business professors, I know case studies are often something that are taught in business school or in business courses. So they were talking about adding case studies to for hypothesis to have students collaboratively read case studies for business.
Yeah, that would be extremely useful for our business ethics class.
Cool. Yeah, and one thing that I want to see when we get I want to show you guys when we get the Blackboard course back up is how to add text. So you can start to think about, what format and what location are my reading materials in, and are they compatible with hypothesis? As a rule, generally speaking, it either has to be a PDF or a public web page. Obviously, the case studies and those academic journal articles won't be at public web pages, but hopefully they can be turned into PDFs that then can be pointed to through hypothesis. Amaya asked what is the difference between an annotation and a page note. So an annotation is a comment that's connected directly to a piece of text within a document. And a page note is a comment that is more global to the document itself. So there are different use cases for page notes. I think one is just a, instructor page note to say, this is who Lincoln was, and this is the context of what was going on when he delivered the Emancipation Proclamation. And so, Jonathan could, if it was his course, provide a little context or background in that kind of page note as a head note. Another thing to do might be to say, as you read Act 1 of Hamlet, I want you to think about, the words madness and death and how they come up throughout Act 1, and just kind of give students maybe a little hint or guidance about what they might be looking for as they go in and annotate with more direct connection to the text. So I'm going to grab screen share and just show in my own Blackboard for a second while we're getting up and running in the CSU Pueblo Blackboard. But whenever we are, let me know, Denise. But I'm back in Blackboard here in my Literature 404 class. And we were annotating Mary Oliver, or I can show you what Mary Oliver annotations look like. Now here's some annotations on a Mary Oliver poem that's from a website. Up here, I'm going to be real meta for a second here and annotate with Zoom. And so up here, you see a box. This is our grading toolbar. It will only appear to the instructor, and it will only appear on Blackboard activities that are designated as, and hypothesis activities that are designated gradable. Now, what it allows me to do is you have to imagine there's like, 30, 40, 50 annotations on this text. And the grading toolbar allows me to, I can see that whole conversation and be part of it, but I can also go one by one, as I said before, and cycle through my students, make sure that Erin did her 3 annotations and give her a grade. Oops. And I want to just show you guys the workflow for creating these types of activities with Hypothesis. Is it true, Denise, that that Hypothesis is available for folks at CSU Pueblo and Blackboard, or do they need to request it?
Yes, no, we're using the LTI integration for the activity.
Okay, so what you'll be able to do is in your Literature of Colorado class, you'll go to Build Content. Hypothesis will be there. Click on Hypothesis. Give it a name, the reading. And then down here, you decide if you want it to be gradable. Again, it default looks like, or at least in my instance, it's defaulted to not gradable. But if I want to enable evaluation, I'll click yes, and then it'll be connected to the gradebook, and I'll see that grading toolbar and be able to send grades directly to the gradebook. But this is the crucial stage. You set up the activity with Hypothesis, as you just saw. You click on it again, and this is the page you're presented with. This is the page in which you select your document for your students to annotate. And you currently have 2 options. We're expanding the menu of possibilities here and expect to, for example, have a Blackboard files integration. We're also working with the likes of EBSCO and ProQuest and JSTOR to add little buttons here to grab a JSTOR article. But right now your options are a public web page like that Edward Dorn poem, anything that doesn't require a login that has a URL, or a PDF from Google Drive. So I need to go and authorize a Google account, but then I'll be presented with my PDFs that are in my Google Drive, but also I can use this Google Drive workflow to upload. So maybe you have these PDFs or can quickly have these PDFs on your desktop. And then you could just go through this upload workflow and select that file from the desktop. And I've got so many PDFs, I don't know about. Oh, this is my favorite summer one. It's not a Colorado poem or essay. It's a Maine essay. So forgive the interstate rivalry. There's probably some kinship between Maine and Colorado. Those are the 2 places I vacationed as a child, both Colorado and Maine. But so I've just added this PDF. It was on my on my desktop. Here it is, and select text, annotate. So Judy asked, does it have to be in Google Drive? Eventually, yes, it has to be in Google Drive. You can go through the workflow I just showed and grab something from your desktop, but ultimately it will live in a Google Drive if you want to do PDFs. Otherwise, you can do things that are on the web and annotate, the Denver Post or something like that.
Jeremy?
Yeah.
Just 2 quick things, one on that and one I was saving. In answer to Judy's question, what she could also do is put the PDF up herself on her own website, which she has, and then grab that URL and annotate there. which is a really good solution if you have WordPress or anything like that.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jonathan. So Judy, if you have your own website, like a WordPress site, you can, upload that as a media file PDF there and just get a URL for it.
The other thing I was going to say is, and you wouldn't know this, but the location of our hypothesis section in our Blackboard is at the bottom of the tools menu. So you log into your course, you go to tools, and right there on the bottom of the list of tools is hypothesis. So you'll be working from there when you're looking for it.
There's
Okay.
a step-by-step help document in your resources that show you how to add activities.
Denise, you can take back power here and share if you like. And maybe it's worthwhile demonstrating that workflow because it's different from the one I demonstrated, which was going through content.
Oh, we can, yes. There we go. Okay.
And I saw this how-to that Denise created. It's a little different from mine because you guys have a different location, but it's great and very clear.
Pretty good, Jeremy.
Okay. I don't think I have control.
Let's give that back. Okay.
Oh my gosh, it's so weird. So you're saying if I want to add a new assignment within this course,
Go up to tools
ah,
and then down to hypothesis. Mhm. Now, can you help me understand, Jeremy? Nothing happens if you attach a PDF here or a document.
Right,
It
right.
will
This
not
is
be annotated. It doesn't do anything.
That's right. Yep. So when I first went to tools and that it shows hypothesis, I'm going to give my thing a name, right? I'm going to see your Lincoln and raise you a Frederick Douglass, Jonathan, and working kind of slow. So yeah, I don't attach anything here. I'm going to enable evaluation this time around. Say it's out of 10 points. I really don't even understand how it's possible that I am controlling your screen, Denise. It's really, I work for a tech company and I'm still kind of blown away by this. So I'm going to submit it.
Mhm.
And so I haven't chosen the document yet. So I need to come back here. It's down here. I can move it up, obviously, reorganize all this stuff. I have to come back to the activity or module item or whatever you want to call it to do my configuration. And now in the background, I'm going to Google and find Douglas's 4th of July piece.
But you're actually on my computer.
What?
So we have to do it from my computer because we're on, isn't that weird? I know.
Whoa. Okay. Okay. Am I on your internet? How does this work?
I know, is that crazy?
PDF. PDF.
Oh,
Search for the
here it is.
PDF.
Well, maybe we'll show the website version.
Okay.
Let's see what this is. Weird. So, is this the text?
That's not the text.
See, Jonathan knows how to find primary sources. But it's the Smithsonian. Come on. So is it?
Search Frederick Douglass 4th of July PDF.
Well, I do want to. Oh my goodness. I do want to show folks the non-PDF workflow because then if I do PDF, then I'm gonna have to go into Denise's Google Drive, which is even more
All right,
crazily invasive.
Then go with text at the end of the search.
Okay.
And Douglas has 2 S's.
Thanks, Teach. All right, how about this one? So what I'm doing is I'm finding the URL for the article or for the document I want my students to read. Man, your internet is slow, Denise.
Let's go into computers.
So I'm copying that. Oh, and I don't even know which of these tabs. This is so weird. Denise, you have so many tabs. Where was I?
Well, I've been working. Hang on. Let me move. I need to move the people. Did you find it?
I'll
That
find it.
was it.
It's the Blackboard tab right here.
There's like 7. Oh, all the way back there. Okay. All right, so now I'm still here. Okay, this is very weird. All right, so now I'm going back. I'm going to configure. I've got the URL in my, whatever you call that. I've copied it. And I'm going to click on URL. This is going to be all kinds of magic, guys. I'm controlling Denise's computer, plus I'm grabbing a URL, bringing it into Blackboard, adding an annotation layer. I mean, I know the world's falling apart, but there's some stuff that's pretty cool still. So that's the grading toolbar that's showing up first. And here comes the website that I grabbed this from. And hopefully, yep, here it is. All right. So I can, what's a quailing sensation? It's where, and I'm Denise, so weird. Oh my gosh. Oops, I didn't save that, but so there you have it. We just did so many crazy things, but one of the things that we did was we added a document to the course here. So now we have Frederick Douglass as part of our syllabus, and let's go back. And oh, one thing I did want to say there, if I can go back to the right thing, you can resize the toolbar here. So I can obviously reshape it. It's going to be a little tight on this particular document. Feel like they should get you a bigger screened computer, Denise.
I have a giant monitor.
Really? What, is it zoomed in or something? But anyway, there I've sort of done it better. You can also always collapse this. You can hide annotations with this eyeball. You can create page notes over here. This is a page note unconnected to text. What we're doing here is totally inappropriate. I am annotating as Denise, which is not something you can do, obviously, with Hypothesis. You're creating your own annotations. You can't impersonate somebody else. Let's just go back and do some call outs before we move on and see how people did here. Let's keep a list, Aaron Barker, on who gets a sticker. Jason gets a sticker. Suzanne gets a sticker. Look at your, are you so proud, Jonathan? All your students are engaging here. Jason added a link. David added, look at that's great, you know, close reading, David, and somebody responded. Jason responded to Amaya. There's threaded conversation happening. Rachel used an image. Oh, with a response. Look at all this threaded conversation. I'm so excited to be a teacher or student in this course with all the vibrancy of what's going on. This little red icon up here, if you can see that, indicates to me that a new annotation has been added since I've been here. And so I can click that and it will refresh the sidebar. And actually one thing I can do is I can order the sidebar by recency. And so I'll see Karen's, oh, no, Karen's not the most recent. Sarah, you know, is the most recent annotation. Oh, somebody's right there, let's see. Well, I think people are replying. So here's a picture of Frederick Douglass against bringing, not the most famous one of him, bringing the text to life. You can imagine, we see on Twitter at the beginning of every semester, some new teachers always being really like, whoa, I'm watching my students reading right now. This is so cool. I'm seeing them engaged with the thing that I assigned, where you could probably go through teaching a normal course without much of this kind of technology and wonder like, is anybody doing the reading? Does anybody really listen to anything I'm saying? And this is a pretty quick way to someone be like, oh, wow, people are engaging. People are doing things with my material. So great job, CSU Pueblo. Jonathan, this isn't accessible. You will get a sticker if you participated, but Jonathan will also be grading you. So look, grades are due on Friday, so you can expect to see your marks show up in Blackboard then. All right, before we move on to some sort of pedagogical inspirations, is there anything else, any questions that have come up?
Well, so I have a question, and Jonathan has been doing this. So can we, because Blackboard often doesn't work, can we use this even when Blackboard is down?
No.
I
Not the
can say one
Blackboard.
thing about the
Yes.
Blackboard going down.
The answer, Rachel, is yes and no. You can't use it the way that it's been shown to you today, but Hypothesis does work outside of Blackboard, which is where all of my experience with it comes from. So if you were to, just go to their website and post stuff on your own website, then this would be completely independent of Blackboard. But there are advantages to working inside of Blackboard, like not requiring student registration, and I guess making the administration happier. But both options, I can even imagine a mix of doing it in some classes inside Blackboard and some classes out, just depending upon what your particular goals happen to be.
And then Rachel, Blackboard's getting moved off the local servers this summer and into Blackboard's cloud hosting. And that should eliminate our downtime and the not being able to get in and
So look at this. I just went to the Frederick Douglass page and turned on Hypothesis independent of Blackboard, and sure looks like there's been some students annotating here. It's quite busy. There's 118 annotations on top of the Frederick Douglass What is the Slave to 4th of July, What to the Slave is 4th of July speech, with lots of public commentary here. I could, if I was logged in, create a private group for a course here, but all that, as Jonathan said, would be done manually. And of course, one advantage of the Blackboard is that, when you load this text, as you might in the course we were just in, you'll see none of these annotations because they're part of the public layer that's not part of this Blackboard integration. So you'd be immediately zoomed in on a private layer for your class to, this page is sort of unusable, at least on the public layer. You definitely would want to create a private group. All right, I think I am ready to relinquish control of your screen, Denise, and finish out with just a few pedagogical provocations. If there are other questions, Aaron or Jonathan or Denise from the margin of the Zoom call, happy to have them surfaced.
You have one.
But yeah, let me just give some quick provocations. I think we're coming up on time here. So back in my deck here, you have a wonderful course that Denise has set up for you. Thank you so much for that, Denise. You can continue annotating there. That Sam Anderson article really is lovely if you need some inspiration about this idea. He's a former editor of the New York Times Book Review. And well before this technology was possible, he sort of imagined, like, wouldn't it be neat if I could see other people's annotations as I was reading? So 6 ways to annotate for and with students. First, I just want to say this isn't necessarily about reading. It is about reading. It is a tool for better reading. And that means, there's all kinds of ways to read better, right? There's basic literacies, but then there's scientific literacies. There's, literary, historical, conceptual literacies. So you can practice all kinds of reading strategies with Hypothesis, but ultimately, or at the same time, I would say it's about community. And it's about building and maintaining community online, and a tool that I think is very authentic in its in the collaborative skills and nurturing of community and collaboration that it does. And that's largely based on feedback from instructors who say, yeah, it was cool that they read the text better, but man, they really just got primed for collaboration and primed for working together, which was one of the cooler things to see. A simple way to start off with Hypothesis would be to open your syllabus up to annotation. It's a great low stakes way to, I lost my screen. Are you guys still there?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I lost my participant, so I couldn't, wherever the videos are. Annotating your syllabus can be a great way to introduce students to the tool. Also open up your syllabus and your course to a little bit of feedback from your students, or get to know them through the vehicle of asking what they're scared of or most excited about on your syllabus. This is an idea stolen from my friend Remy Collier at CU Denver. So further shout out to Colorado. You can just turn this on for students and have hypothesis enable and give them back the margin and see what they do with it. They may, questions may come up, they may answer each other's questions. You can also be more guided in your approach. Jonathan had nicely went and pre-populated annotations on top of one of the readings. And that's something you can do. You can go into a reading and gloss it for students. You can go into it and add prompts for them to respond to. You can go into it and model the kind of annotations that you want them to create. The bread and butter of what we do, though, is definitely asynchronous seminar style discussion. I saw something in the chat about the quote unquote discussion forums in the LMS and Blackboard. I think I mentioned I've done a few of these webinars today, so forgive me, it's all running together, but I do think this is a better way to actually have discussion than a discussion forum. Not only as an English teacher are we, close to the text, and I want my students building arguments based on textual evidence, but also this allows for student questions to arise and prompt extended threads rather than everything being top down, teacher to student, and it's a more organic kind of conversation that can happen. And then finally, anything that you can turn into a PDF, your lecture notes, even a slide deck, could become the object for annotation. So if you're teaching a larger class where those artifacts are more the norm, you can add those to your Blackboard course and activate hypothesis and have students, go through the deck or through the lecture notes and say, this concept still confuses me. And that will give you a heat map of where you might need to go with your next conversations or presentations. I'm going to stop there and give us a little time for questions before our hour is up.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I had a question in the margin and then my laptop crashed and I had to come back on my phone. So you may have addressed this, and if I missed it, I apologize. But if I uploaded a graph, like a musical score or something that was simply a graphic, not necessarily text, can you annotate a space on the picture, or does it have to be text?
It has to be text, and let me answer that in two parts. One, think about PDFs, and I can't remember if I've made this joke already on this one, again, given a few of these webinars today, but the PDFs have to be OCR'd. If that doesn't mean anything to you, you probably have had the experience of some PDFs having optical characters that your mouse can select and copy and paste it, say, into a piece of writing. Those are OCR'd PDFs. It's not just an image. So your best experience of annotating, if you want to annotate on the, level of specific pieces of text, is to use an OCR'd PDF. That also happens to be an accessible type of PDF, so that may be a requirement anyway for adding PDFs to courses. So in terms of the musical score or any kind of image annotation, there is no, you do have to have some anchor for hypothesis. We want to grab onto some specific piece of text. You could go into a musical score or say a page of a graphic novel and add your own layer of text, even if it was just a grid layer of like A, B, C, D, E, F, G or something like that, to give students an anchor to be able to comment on a detail of it. But that would be some extra work. So the PDFs do need to have optical character recognition.
Do you know if the musical score software saves PDFs in that version by any chance? I mean, would the individual pieces of the score be?
I have no idea.
Or
I have no idea actually, and I haven't seen it per se, but I would be very interested in the answer to that question. If there exists a musical score software where the characters are optically recognizable by the computer, that'd be really awesome. I don't know that I've seen it.
Okay, I'll experiment. Yeah. I do know in the Dropbox PDF annotation, if you're familiar with it.
I'm not.
It does, okay. It may. I can only say that it may, but I'll experiment.
Yeah, let me know if you can. Jeremy Dean at Hypothesis with a dot before the IS. I'll drop it in here, but I'd be very curious about that.
Okay.
So Judy, in terms of a PDF, you can scan it as a PDF, And to OCR it, we can provide a resource. There may be something in the chat. Erin may have already shared it. Looks like she just did. You can, that's a little how-to OCR text. Denise's team, I don't know if you guys have Adobe Acrobat Pro. Some Xerox machines, I have had this experience at UT Austin where I can go and Xerox a chapter of a book, and as I'm copying it, I can save it to a PDF and I can actually do the OCR process as part of that whole thing at the machine. But there's some after it's already a PDF mechanisms you can use, including Adobe Acrobat Pro, and then Erin has dropped something in the margin there in the chat rather, talking about OCR. We also are happy to provide that service. So Judy, if you find yourself, oh my gosh, I need this up to you know, because they're going to be annotating it tomorrow, you can email support@Hypothesis and we can help you with the last minute OCRing of a PDF.
If you send a Word doc to print as a PDF, does that create readable?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, Word docs and Google Docs, if you print to PDF, it should retain the characters.
David, did you see my note about, I found a music note annotation website. It's in the chat. There's a link.
Oh, I missed it. I will check it now. Thank you.
Just put it there.
So again, you have great resources there. Jonathan's been using Hypothesis for years now. Denise has been incredibly supportive as we've gotten up and running over the past year at CSU Pueblo. I think Denise might have had some experience before CSU Pueblo with Hypothesis as well. So you've got great resources on the ground there. Erin and I and our support team remain resources for you as well. You're part of a pilot program now. You have the technical support of our team, as well as the pedagogical support. Everybody that I've hired as part of the Hypothesis education team has a background as an educator. I like to think of us as a home for all the ABDs that never finished the dissertation or never went into academia. There's a lot of those on our team. And so we know how to talk pedagogy and are happy to support and have conversations around, I want to use this in nursing, but I need a little bit more of a conversation. Let's set that up. And then the other thing to say is that we are very interested in building community, both on the ground there, around annotation, and maybe meeting again to swap stories about how this is going in the classroom, to learn from each other, so that we can learn from you. But we're also building, networks across institutions of folks using Hypothesis. So right now I'm working with a bunch of people teaching comp across the country, talking about the use of collaborative annotation. Could have similar little micro communities around annotation practice in subdisciplines or in disciplines like biology. Maybe we can connect the business school folks. So please be in touch however we can be helpful.
Cool.
Jeremy, there was one more question about if a student turns in a paper and it's saved as a PDF, can it be peer reviewed anonymously?
Not anonymously, because the accounts with the LMS Hypothesis is communicating with Blackboard and knowing that it's Jonathan. So Jonathan can't be a jerk. He's going to have to share his feedback in a civil public way. We do see people doing that though in terms of peer review, not private peer review. Probably there's some good rules to set ahead of time, right, for the Jonathans of the world that are going to be nasty in their feedback, just picking on you, Jonathan. But to think, that this commentary is public and I'm trying to be helpful. But we do see people using it for peer review.
Just my experience with peer review is that the students tend to do the really easy, obvious stuff like correct grammar and punctuation, which then saves me enormous amounts of time as I do the more substantive comments. Sometimes it gets much better than that, but it's a good way to share labor.
And I think it's a good way for drafting. I've seen really great times when, the peer review is happening before the, early on in the drafting process. And it's really more about the ideation, I guess, about, I see the theme of this paper. Did you think about this passage from the book that we read, or this academic article that I discovered? you know, helping push people in their ideas and developing their argumentation. Great. Well, we had the hour scheduled. Is that right, Aaron and Denise? I don't want to keep anybody. I know you're just probably late for your next Zoom meeting in this new world that we live in.
Denise and I are here for local support. If you love this program and you know this immediately and you're going to adapt it, please email me soon. Otherwise, I will email you later and see how it's going. We'll see what you think. And thank you for coming by. I know this is like dead middle of the summer, but at the same time, I just simply figured that it's better to do this now when you have some time to play with the program before fall, rather than to try to do this in convocation or something. We could repeat this again for like advanced hypothesis somewhere down the road, but let's just see how all of you are doing.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Thank you. And I put that meeting link in the chat if anyone wants to meet with me as well.
Thank you.
Okay, be safe, everyone.
Be well.